This restaurant is a literal fairy tale in the English countryside. Except this story is unlike anything you've ever heard before. This is the story of how a 3 Michelin star restaurant turned an enchanting medieval town into an unlikely global food destination. We're going off the beaten path today to what many people consider to be the single best restaurant in the UK, L'Enclume. Today we are in Cartmel, England, which is home to just 1,000 residents, a 12th century church, and one of the most innovative fine dining restaurants in the world. We're obviously here to dine at L'Enclume, which has 3 Michelin stars, but we're also going to explore this cute little town and visit their incredible farm that's the lifeblood of their restaurant. But first, surprisingly, this little town has not 1, but 2 critically acclaimed restaurants. Just down the street from L'Enclume is Rogan & Co., which is their more down-to-earth sister restaurant that also has 1 Michelin star.
Rogan & Co. is more a neighborhood restaurant, so it's a bit more casual. Rogan & Co. is like almost the same suppliers, just cooked a little different. I think the neighborhood style with really high quality ingredients is almost the same ethos.
It's cozy here, but there's a scientific level of detail and control beneath the surface. Their aim is to grow perfectly flavored produce in a natural way, and these starting bites reflect that care.
This is our pan-roasted, hand-dyed Orkney scallop, coming from up in Scotland. Now in the base you'll find a salsify puree, as well as some rainbow chard from our farm, glazed in smoked scallop roe oil. Top of the scallop itself is our toasted salsify crumb, as well as the smoked pike perch roe.
Really fresh, rich, a little bit of smokiness from that roe on top. I mean, look, this isn't anything fancy. This is purely delicious. It's a super nice homey style of cooking that's seasonal, focused on produce, and just downright delicious. So, how can you complain about a meal like this?
The food here, like it is at L'Enclume, is hyper-local. This potato dish is a snapshot in time, a celebration of everything that's in season at the farm at the moment, which we'll actually get to tour in a bit. It's cheesy, earthy, and peppery at the same time.
This is the Cumbrian aged beef. It's the feather blade cut of the beef, which is just under the shoulder. It's been dry aged for 28 days, and then the chefs, they brine it, press it, and then sous vide it for 24 hours.
Time for the main course. First observation, meat just falling apart, super beautifully tender. Beautiful, deep umami flavor, and honestly a really interesting way to use tapioca pearls. I haven't seen them in a beef course ever, but they give a little bit of chew, they give a little bit of texture and differentiate from the tenderness of the beef.
The dishes here incorporate quintessentially British ingredients and are so fresh and hearty, but there's always a creative twist. From the tapioca in the beef to the spiced apple cake that's infused with Darjeeling tea, known as the champagne of teas. Now, the romantic storybook setting shouldn't fool you into thinking that it's sleepy here. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite. Cartmel is a hotbed of innovation, like a campus of creative chefs all trying to use seasonal produce in unprecedented ways. And they were actually one of the pioneers in the farm-to-table restaurant movement. They were doing this 20 years ago. In fact, they also have a Michelin Green Star for their sustainability efforts. So before we go see the stunning menu at L'Enclume, we first took a trip to their farm to see some of those efforts in action. The Lake District in the northwest of England is a lush landscape of fertile valleys and woodlands that have been home to great poets and great ingredients for centuries. This farm not only supplies Rogan & Co. and L'Enclume, but also all of Simon Rogan's restaurants in the UK, and there was no better guide to explore the farm than with their head grower, John.
All this is micro cresses. We plant up 200 of these twice a week, so there's 400 of these going through here every single week. That's called a red Mizuna, watercress here. This is a kale cress called red Russian.
When Simon started L'Enclume in 2002, the produce available in the area was sparse, and the only way to get what they wanted was to be in control of it themselves. Simon's father was a fruit and vegetable salesman, and he had an interest in produce from an early age. Flash forward to today, and the farm is a showcase of the best and most unique British ingredients, whether they're used fresh or pickled and preserved.
So we got some leeks in there, 3 different types of beetroot. We got Cylindra beetroot, we got Bogardi, and we've got golden beetroot. We got about 12 different types of mint on the farm. Chocolate mint, pineapple mint, strawberry mint, ginger mint, quite a lot of mints. That's called scented pelargonium. It's a Turkish delight flavour. It's actually rose flavour scented pelargonium.
Every dish begins at the farm. The chefs learn from John what's at its peak that day, then experiment with those ingredients at Aulis, the development kitchen in town, which we'll visit later for a special demonstration during dinner. Then they choose particularly exciting dishes to feature at L'Enclume.
Simon has given me a list of what he wants, and Mother Nature allows us to what she wants. It's been 2 pretty bad seasons, but we've done really well this year. Usually our summer starts at the 1st of June, and it was still cold in the middle of July. So all the summer crops were like a month and a half behind.
Despite early challenges with the fickle weather and scaling their operation, L'Enclume has a menu that changes weekly, even daily, and a farm that can sustain it while enriching the land with a hot composting system where all nutrients and organic matter go back to the soil.
They compost pretty much anything. Raw meat, cooked meat, the waste vegetables, fish heads, fish tails, bones, shells, anything organic goes into these.
Yeah, I've never seen like actual like mussel shells in
the ground.
Yeah, in the ground like that. That's cool.
We zero food waste go into landfill. It all comes back to the farm. All the waste cooking oil from the restaurants, we pick that up 2 or 3 times a week. Store it. Every 2 weeks a chap comes and picks it up and turns it into HVO biofuel. And we use that then to run our generator. It's all about doing the right thing for the environment.
John and his team aren't just farmers, they're flavor scientists, constantly finding unconventional uses for familiar ingredients, like growing peach trees to use the leaves, which apparently taste like almond or marzipan.
So we've got some wasabi by here, which we're trialing. But the wasabi is going to be for the leaf rather than for the root, because the root takes 3 years. But we can actually cut the leaf, and it'll have an intense taste for about 20-30 minutes before the taste goes. So they'll take it to the restaurant, and just before they set up a dish, they'll cut the leaf and serve it straight away like, yeah.
Soon, we'll get to see how these ingredients are incorporated into the L'Enclume menu, but first, when I said this place is like a fairy tale, I meant it. So we're going to explore this enchanting town a little bit more and learn more about its history.
This is straight up the cutest little fairy tale town that I've ever walked through. You can walk around it in 5 minutes, and it's quite lively given the size.
Cartmel is where old meets new. It's famous for its 12th century priory, a type of monastery that's one of a kind in the UK, and an architectural marvel that's part Gothic, part majestic fortress. And L'Enclume itself is housed in a 14th century blacksmith shop that they worked hard to preserve. In fact, L'Enclume actually means the anvil as an homage to this history. When you think of a storybook town, you think of warm taverns and communal dinners, and you'll find all that here. Cartmel is also known for being the birthplace of the UK's most famous dessert.
Right there is allegedly the home of sticky toffee pudding.
When you're here, you realize just how much the village has to offer. But being 4 hours outside of London and 2 hours outside of Manchester, Cartmel is pretty remote. It seems amazing, almost impossible, that this mini fine dining empire was created here in Cartmel. By the way, this is just one restaurant in our new series called Off the Beaten Path, where we explore some of the world's most remote restaurants. So if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe below, because one random subscriber is going to come with me to one of these incredible remote restaurants. But anyway, it's finally time to see if L'Enclume lives up to the hype. It was awarded with 3 Michelin stars, named the best restaurant in the UK, and topped the rankings of La Liste. It's time to have dinner at L'Enclume. When it started out, L'Enclume had the cards stacked against it. In addition to being remotely located, it was serving cuisine that was French-inspired, but not classically French. The focus was on amazing British produce, but it wasn't casual British pub food that people are used to and love. So for their food to really stand out and bring people to the countryside, it needed to be different. And the meal started with a bang.
You've got a fritter of Duroc pig and smoked eel. We wrap it in tapioca crumb that's been soaked in onion stock. That's then deep fried, and a lovage emulsion at the base. Enjoy.
The next dish involved a special field trip, so I joined L'Enclume's head chef, Paul, as he made a cheese pudding that is one of the only dishes that always stays on the menu here.
So the pudding is basically layers of croissant, and then we mix it with a custard mix. This is birch sap. At the farm, we've got a woodland around us. It's a lot of birch, so we tap the trees, and it's like almost like maple syrup. So I'm just gonna glaze it in it. That's the cheese gel. So we make a cheese water, set with a little bit of agar, local stout. We make a vinegar out of it. After that, we reduce it.
I could eat like 4 or 5 of those. Really soft, really creamy, a little bit sharp, but not too sharp. Whew.
The next 2 dishes were a perfect exploration of land meets sea. The dishes so far have been both meat and vegetable forward, but even after a few courses, there's nothing overly heavy or strong in flavor, which is a testament to how technical and precise they are, perfectly balanced so as not to overwhelm you.
Sometimes with mackerel, it can be a little bit too fishy, but it's got just the right amount of brininess. A little bit of that rose hip brings some florality to it. So it's actually a lot lighter than you'd expect a mackerel dish to be, and everything's just so well balanced so far.
A delicate menu isn't without surprises though. Caviar is sometimes an unnecessary flashy addition to a dish, but here it deserves all the attention, being punchier and saltier than I'm used to.
But it works. It's a powerful flavor, and I think after all those sort of really well-balanced starters, it's time to up the ante, and this is the dish that does just that. Nice and salty, nice and umami, really briny, but you still get the pure flavor of that caviar. It really does taste like the sea. Whew.
L'Enclume is often credited with pioneering the farm-to-fork movement here in the UK, and many restaurants that reach 3 stars double down on what's worked for them in the past. But the L'Enclume team takes it as a sign to do more and to supercharge their culture of innovation.
We don't want to stay still. That's the main thing. When you have 3 stars, you want to make sure that you involve, you're always changing, you always improve, and look for the evolution in a way. Like, it's very, very important.
The kitchen is a ship that's as tightly run as the farm, hyper-optimized in order to ensure the smallest carbon footprint possible.
The more sustainable it is, the best it is for us, because this is where we want to aim for. Vinegar, we buy 1,000 liters in big bulk, and that's done. That's the year. We're trying making plateware with broken glasses, with a local artist, trying to be more sustainable, trying to be more careful about what we do. Is challenging, but it's what pushes and drives us.
Then it was time for a vegetable preparation that was unassuming but super filling and rich, featuring red Baron onions that were cooked in chicken fat and barbecued, accompanied by some pumpernickel bread.
You all know that I'm a sucker for bread and butter, and this is probably one of the most unique breads and butters that I've ever gotten at a fine dining restaurant. It's like a rye bread, so it's a lot more dense, but it's almost nutty because of that yeasted butter. It's bold, I love it, and I'm 100% asking for another serving of this. This meal is a little bit quicker paced than most meals, which I actually kind of like. We're kind of already getting towards the main courses, and it's been 2 hours or 1.5 hours max. Really nice pace. It doesn't feel rushed, but the time does fly when you're having fun, I guess. Quick shout out to the drinks program, by the way. Every single one has been a winner, and actually the pairing for these non-alcoholic drinks, superb. Every single drink has been really, really creative, something that I haven't seen before, and just so refreshing and delicious. I think when you get potato dishes in fine dining restaurants, you expect it to be really just rich, buttery, super soft, but these have a little bit of chew to them. They have a little bit of texture. It's almost like an al dente potato, which is super interesting. And rather than being rich and buttery, it's got almost a little acidity to it as well. Unexpected, but really good.
Another curveball, even in a beef dish, the meat takes on a supporting role to the vegetables here. That's how good the produce is. The melt-in-your-mouth ox tongue on top adds a layer of saltiness and richness on top of the sweet cabbage, so you're getting a satisfying beefy dish without eating a lot of beef at all.
Also, I told you I was going to get another piece of bread. This was too good to pass up. I will say, this menu hits you like a ton of bricks. No course individually is very heavy, but it all adds up, and I am so full already. We still have 1 or 2 more desserts to go, but geez, I was not expecting to be as full as I am. If you come solely because you want to be full out of your mind, this is the place to come. All of the cutlery honestly looks like it was kind of crafted by a blacksmith. It's very kind of metallic, rugged, and very beautiful. It definitely matches there. You're seeing the anvil insignia at a lot of places, and the cutlery is beautiful.
In true farm-to-table form, terroir at L'Enclume is not only expressed in their wines, but also in their incredible selection of local cheeses that they bring out mid-meal on a trolley for each guest to sample from. As we transition to desserts, we have a hybrid between sweet and savory, featuring Tungworth cheese with a nice acidity from Yosta berries, which taste like the best part of their parent fruits, gooseberries and blackcurrants, with a hint of grape.
This is pretty different from a lot of the other courses that I had. It feels a little bit more almost like molecular or something like that, but still really simple, classic flavors. And I think that's kind of the theme of this meal. It's nothing pretentious, nothing too crazy and too fancy. It's just really simply delicious flavors that pair super well together.
This next dessert perfectly captures the beauty and creativity of L'Enclume, with a pumpkin seed cake and a cherry juice leaf that's actually modeled off of the leaves on the property.
Now we have their signature dessert, the Anvil. This space is such a historic space, so for them to name the restaurant after kind of what was done here in the past, to have this dessert on the menu, to have all the utensils and cutlery reflect that as well is just a really nice touch that you don't see at too many places.
This whimsical last dish, which is really 3 dishes, is the perfect conclusion to the story they're telling about the land. 3 perfect bites that look like they've been foraged from different environments nearby, and a mint stone that looks like the perfect pebble you'd use to skip on a lake. L'Enclume is a beautiful study on how exquisite British cuisine can get, but also how you can use humble, local ingredients to create a truly stunning menu. This town is a fairy tale come to life. Staying here and being stuffed with the most sublime farm-to-table food I've ever had is the fairy tale ending to my time here. But L'Enclume still had one more surprise for me before I left.
I've never had a full English breakfast before, and today we're trying it for the first time. It's a bit of a fancier version, but can't leave England without trying one of these, right?
We finished our visit with this extraordinary breakfast, and I can't tell if it's because it was from a 3 Michelin star restaurant, but this English breakfast was actually really good. Whether it's the town, the farm, or the food, L'Enclume is creating a nearly perfect experience, and honestly, I couldn't think of a more perfect ending to this trip.